Imagine sitting behind the wheel of a stock car doing 150 miles an hour, and in the middle of a routine pit stop, your left front tire simply comes apart. 13 positions vanish before you can even process what happened. Your radio goes silent. In that split second, you have only two choices: scream or shut up and drive. He chose to scream. 5 seconds of pure, unfiltered rage over the team radio. Then he went quiet. 260 laps later, he was standing in victory lane, trophy in hand, next to the one driver on that entire track he calls a brother. This is not simply a story about a race win. This is a story about whether that win should have happened at all, and whether the man standing in second place got robbed of it by his own closest friend. Welcome back to NASCAR Voltage. Before we break down exactly what happened on that track, here's what we're not going to tell you yet. The track. Not the name, not the location. What we can tell you is that this was a Cup Series race, run at one of the sport's most demanding short tracks, and the driver at the center of the chaos was chasing something significant in his career. Hold that thought, because the reveal is worth the wait. The location was New Hampshire Motor Speedway, known throughout the sport as the Magic Mile. It is a flat, 1-mile oval that punishes mechanical mistakes far more severely than the sprawling superspeedways drivers face elsewhere on the calendar, which is exactly why a single loose lug nut was capable of unraveling an entire race strategy in seconds. Passing at this track is difficult even under normal conditions, which means a driver who loses track position rarely gets it back through raw speed alone. Strategy, tire wear, and pit road execution tend to decide races here far more often than at wider, faster ovals. The driver who lived through those 5 seconds of radio fury was Blaney, a driver who came into that Sunday chasing his 20th career win, and the man who finished second, the one Blaney would later stand beside in victory lane, was Bubba Wallace. This was not a random rival crossing the finish line behind him. Wallace and Blaney grew up racing together, and they have known each other since childhood. They came up through the same junior ranks, competed against each other long before either driver reached the Cup Series, and have carried that relationship with them into the top level of the sport. They race like brothers, and on that Sunday, one of them had to lose. If you're new here, this is exactly the kind of real, fact-driven NASCAR breakdown we do every week on NASCAR Voltage, and we are closing in on our first 1,000 subscribers. If you want more breakdowns like this one, hit subscribe, drop a like, and leave a comment telling us what you think really happened at New Hampshire. Every subscriber genuinely helps this channel grow, and your support is what allows us to keep producing content like this. Now let's rebuild exactly how this race unfolded, because the sequence of events matters more than the final result. Blaney had built a substantial lead over the field when disaster struck during a pit stop under caution. A lug nut came loose on the left front tire, and Blaney was forced out of the lead entirely, dropping through the field in a matter of seconds. Pit road, at a track this short, offers almost no margin for recovery. A driver who loses 13 positions on a mile-long oval cannot simply drive around the field the way they might at a track twice the length. For most drivers, that kind of mechanical failure ends the day. For Blaney, it triggered a reaction that fans have come to expect from him, one that has followed him through multiple seasons of Cup Series competition. In his own words, describing how he processes frustration on the radio, Blaney said, "It takes me 5 or 10 seconds to move on." He has explained that the outburst functions as a kind of relief valve. If he doesn't let the frustration out immediately, it sits in the back of his mind for the rest of the race, quietly affecting his focus, his lap times, and his decision-making on restarts. What happened next is where the story stops being simple. Blaney's crew chief, Jonathan Hassler, offered a stunning admission after the race. Rather than treating the lug nut failure as a costly mistake, Hassler suggested it may have actually worked in the team's favor. He said, "Maybe was a little bit of a blessing in disguise." According to Hassler, the pit road error meant Blaney came out of that sequence ahead of several contenders who had taken 4 fresh tires instead of 2. That decision, whether forced by circumstance or made deliberately in the moment, changed the entire complexion of the closing laps. Drivers who had taken 4 tires had more short-term grip, but they were also further back in the running order and had to spend valuable laps working their way back toward the front. Blaney, running on the older 2 tires he kept from the original stop, held track position at the exact moment it mattered most. In other words, The mistake that should have ended his race instead became the foundation of the strategy that won it. A lug nut falling off should have ended his day. Instead, it built the very structure that carried him to victory lane. This is where the real argument begins, and there is no clean answer. On one side of this debate is the case that Blaney's win was pure skill, not luck. He led a race-high 115 of 301 laps, a number that speaks for itself regardless of how the pit stop unfolded. Leading that many laps at a track known for close, side-by-side racing requires sustained speed across an entire afternoon, not a single fortunate break. He also became the first driver to win back-to-back Cup races at New Hampshire since Kurt Busch in 2004, a statistic that ties him to one of the most difficult repeat feats in the sport, spanning 2 decades without a repeat winner at that same track. In the closing laps, Blaney was defending his lead on aging tires, while Wallace was running on 4 fresh ones. Managing a car with less grip, under direct pressure from a car with more grip, is not something luck accomplishes. That is racecraft under pressure, the kind of sustained concentration that separates a driver who wins occasionally from one chasing his 20th career victory. On the other side of this debate is the case that Wallace lost this race to his own error, not to anything Blaney did. Wallace had genuinely closed the gap in the final laps, putting himself in a real position to challenge for the win. And for a stretch of those closing circuits, it looked like the fresher tires would simply overwhelm Blaney's advantage in track position. Then, while pushing to pass a lapped car, he locked up his front tire, and by his own account, that mistake ended his shot at the win. That single moment, a lockup while navigating traffic rather than while racing Blaney directly, is what separates this outcome from a straightforward defeat. Wallace did not hide his frustration afterward. He said, "That's the thing I kind of hate about this place." He also stated that he was driving one of the worst handling cars of his entire season and still managed to finish second despite that disadvantage, a result that speaks to his own driving even in defeat. Before the race had even concluded, Wallace had jokingly predicted exactly how it would end, saying, "Called it. NASCAR's golden boy wins the race." That line, delivered before the checkered flag ever fell, has since taken on a different weight, given how the finish actually played out. Underneath all of this sits the detail that makes the entire situation more complicated. These two men are not rivals in the traditional sense. Blaney has said there are only a handful of drivers on the racetrack that he respects at that level, and Wallace is one of them. That respect, built over years of racing against each other since childhood, did not translate into either man giving ground once the laps started winding down. Yet neither driver backed off during those final laps. Neither one drove like they were racing a friend. They will fly home on the same plane tonight, sit near each other, and likely laugh about parts of this race. But for those final laps, they were not friends. They were two competitors chasing the same trophy, and only one of them could have it. So here is the real question this race leaves behind, and it deliberately has no clean answer. Was the pit road disaster the accident that should have cost Blaney the entire race? Or was it the accident that actually won it for him? Because Hassler's own words suggest the team's strategy pivoted around that failure rather than despite it. Every lap that followed the lug nut incident was run under a strategy built directly from that mistake, which means the entire second half of the race cannot be separated from the error that started it. The stakes extend well beyond this single Sunday. Blaney's win marked Ford's 4th victory in the last 6 Cup Series races, a stretch that signals real momentum heading into the postseason for the manufacturer as a whole, not just for Blaney's individual team. It was also Blaney's 3rd win of the season, positioning him directly into the 10-race chase with real momentum behind him at exactly the point in the schedule when momentum matters most. That raises an uncomfortable question for Team Penske and for Blaney's crew specifically. If a pit road mistake becomes a repeatable pattern rather than a one-time blessing in disguise, does the thing that won this race become the thing that cost them a championship? A blessing in disguise works exactly once, by definition. If it happens again in the playoffs, when the margin for error disappears entirely and every position on the track carries championship implications, it will not be remembered as lucky. It will be remembered as a liability, and it will be Hassler's own pit crew under the microscope rather than Blaney's driving. This is also where Wallace's title picture enters the conversation. A second-place finish at New Hampshire, achieved in what Wallace himself described as one of his worst handling cars of the season, still carries meaningful points value heading into a stretch of the schedule where playoff positioning is decided by margins this thin. If Wallace's own team can find the pace that was clearly present in that car during the closing laps, the rematch between these two friends may not stay confined to a single Sunday at the Magic Mile. So tell me directly, because I want to know where you land on this. If that lug nut never comes off, does Bubba Wallace win this race outright? Or was Ryan Blaney always going to find a way to that trophy regardless of what happened on pit road? Drop your verdict in the comments below, because judging by how split the fan base already is on this one, that comment section is about to go to war. If you want more breakdowns like this one, delivered with real quotes and real numbers instead of speculation, subscribe to NASCAR Voltage, hit the like button, and share this video with another NASCAR fan who needs to see this debate. Every comment, every share, and every subscription helps this channel keep producing coverage built entirely on what drivers and crew chiefs actually said, not on assumptions. If you enjoy real NASCAR breakdowns like this, you'll like what's coming next.